There you go. So
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
we have a quorum. Okay, so do you start recording right now, or how's this work?
It's been recording, but we'll edit out everything up to this point.
Got it. Okay. All right. So I count down, I guess, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Peralta Community College District's Bond Measure Oversight Committee meeting of Wednesday, January 9th, 2021. Mark Johnson, can you call the roll call, please?
Yes, indeed. Patricia Ellis.
Present.
Yusef Herbert is not here. Benjamin Scott.
Present.
Thank you. Marcus Crowley.
Present.
Thank you. Ariana Brown is not present. Andrea Dawson.
Present. Thank you, Mark. So next item on the agenda is item 2, approve agenda for this meeting, January 9th, 2021. Are there any recommendations or comments on items on the agenda to move them around or change? Hearing none, I will go on to item 3, which is approved minutes from the May 12th, 2021 meeting. Would someone like to put forward a motion to approve the minutes, or do they have comments? Marcus Crowley?
Yeah, I have a comment there. The date is wrong on the minutes that are posted on the website.
Oh, thank you. So I think that is a technical change that we could make and still approve the minutes with that change. So hearing no other comments, I motion that we approve the minutes from the May 12th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second, Benjamin.
Okay, Benjamin Scott seconds, so roll call, please.
Benjamin Scott.
Correct.
Patricia Ellis.
Yay.
Yusef Herbert is not here. Marcus Crowley.
Okay.
Andrea Dawson.
Yes.
And Ariana Brown is not present. So the motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So item 4 is an information item. It's public comment for agenda item. And so what that means, if there's any public listening, is that we will take comments after the item has been presented on the agenda, and any other comments that would come forward would come at the end of which is number 10, new business items. So that could be a suggestion or recommendation from the public. So I will move on to item 5, which is a presentation and discussion on the bond web oversight, website for our committee. And I'm understanding that from what I see, Keith Kajaya and Mark Johnson are going to share this presentation. So go ahead, please. And I'm hoping that you can put, actually bring the website up.
Great. Keith, do you want me to do that, or do you want to do it?
Oops, sorry, my camera's not on. I apologize. I've been on camera all day.
That's all right.
Let me try to do it, Mark, unless you're on there already.
Okay, I'll let you.
Or are you more, oh, mine is quite large here. Why is my screen so big? Oh, here you go.
I'm deferring to you so I can take notes while you talk.
Ah,
Move things around here. I can share my screen here. Okay, hopefully you are seeing the screen and not showing vacation photos or something.
I don't see the screen yet. Oh, here it comes, I believe.
Do you see the Build Peralta website?
No, actually, everything went away for me. It went back to launch meeting. Now I gotta pull down. Oh, here it is. So it's here. Okay, thank you.
Okay, was there specific content I was going to review, Mark, just as a point of the agenda?
So Mr. Crawley had requested that we go over the website and kind of show the features of the website. It's been a while since we discussed it, and I think the last time that we discussed the website was right after it launched. So it's probably good to kind of give an update on it, and then also specifically spending some time in the oversight section
Sure.
of the site. Mr. Crawley had some questions there.
Okay, sure. So hopefully you can all see the screen. So this is the main page when you go to build peralta.edu. It's an overview of the capital bond program. So this is on the district's domain. However, it's dedicated specifically for the bond project. So on our flagship page, we scroll through a menu here where you can actually go to a specific college directly. But on the main page here is a link. This is actually a link to see the Measure A and G bond language. So if you click on this link, it brings you into a subpage where you actually see the actual original bond language from both Measure A and Measure G. And then we have quick links on the specific language of the bond measures themselves. So if you were to click this, it will actually open up a PDF. Hopefully I don't crash my computer by doing all these things. And here's the actual specific language of the bond measure. So good reference for anybody who wants to see the actual specific language. Here you see the bond project listing as well, right? Let's go back to the front here. So there's a number of tabs along the top here. Projects is where we have each of the colleges as well as district-wide. So you can go to any one of these links here and it'll take you to that specific college and a profile of the bond projects that are ongoing at the campus. So if we were to click on Laney campus here, for example, it takes us to a Laney College subpage. And as we scroll down here, we're going to see all the capital projects that are moving forward. And this is something that we maintain on an ongoing basis. So here's the LRC, here's the modernization project. These are both state-funded projects. Here's the locker room project that's underway as well. So it's a little profile of each project. It's also intended to include capture progress photos. So if you clicked on to learn more for any particular project, it'll bring you to a portfolio of images for the project. In this case, since this project's under design, it's showing renderings of the interior from the architect, the exterior shots, and so that there's a whole portfolio of images here. So the intent is once we get under construction as well, you'll be seeing construction progress photos. So it's going to be kind of the archive library of progress for each project. You could do that for any of these campuses. You know, if we want to go to the College of Alameda, for example, it does the same thing. It just goes to the College of Alameda. And again, here you see the new Center for Liberal Arts is the new project that we just recently completed using Measure A funds. So there's a video of the actual virtual ribbon cutting ceremony that we did last year. Here's their ongoing project for the diesel and auto technologies project. And again, a link to images and renderings of the project as it's currently under design. So pretty much the same format. So a great way for you to kind of get a sense of the projects and the images of as they progress through design and certainly through construction as well. There's a report tab here. This is actually a link directly to the master plans for the capital program. So here you see a link to the board approved technology, facilities and technology master plan that was developed in 2017, approved by the board in 2018. This is the driving document for the bond projects and the original bond project listing. Presentations and briefings, every time I make a presentation to the board, typically they are posted here. So every time I make a bond presentation, the PowerPoint file is actually here. The last time I presented was back in April. Dave and I presented to the board. And this is actually just a link directly to the actual deck that was presented to the trustees. So you get a sense of what that is.
Was that on the Milvia project, Keith? I thought that was the last presentation you guys made was on Milvia, wasn't it?
Yes, there was a specific presentation on Milvia. This particular one actually was my bond update. So I think actually, Dr. J, it was the first meeting that you had attended, and it was giving an overview of the entire bond program at that point in time. But it's certainly a good archive for all the presentations that I make to the trustees. Here's the Oversight tab, which is where we'll spend a little bit more time. So this really talks about the board. It has the board policy related to oversight. And so there's a link here to the PDF of the board policy. There's a link to the district administrative procedure that's associated with it as well. And those are just PDF links.
Can I go back just for a second, just on what the chancellor might have been referencing? I see where you have the projects on the bond here on the top where it just says projects. And if we go to Berkeley City College, can we then show where your specific presentations for specific projects when you've come to the board?
You know, we haven't been doing that, but that's a good comment, right? To do that, since we're starting to do that a little bit more often as we take some of these more significant contracts to the board. In this case, this project is a design build project. And so we did not post that presentation actually to the site, but that's
Okay,
a good comment to add here.
And this was the first one done, so.
It's the first major progressive design build. The other ones were like for the locker room and for the central plant at Laney. But we do have posted here some of the background images. So here's the rendering that was presented at that meeting, right, of the new building that's currently under design.
Great,
Yeah,
thank you.
just to chime in again and thank all of you for being here. I had a overlapping meeting and I apologize for being a little late, but I think that would be a great idea. One of the things that we are starting to, my theme, and the staff already know this, is Back to the Future, in that we did a lot of things that we've stopped doing. And I think we need to go back and have like a touchstone to that history, and then kind of reconstitute, re-implement, and improve upon what we used to do. And one of those was when we had major projects, even though they were either design build or design build bid, whatever, it really didn't matter. We would take that to the Board of Trustees, and we did that with the Milvia Street project. And so I think it would be good. I know it's a little bit more work for you guys, Keith, that even though it's not under the major page where you have board presentations, that maybe it could be linked to the actual projects by campus, if individuals wanted to go and to look at that.
Sure. Yeah, great idea. Easy for us to do. We also just took the aviation phase 2 architect selection, and they made a brief presentation as well at the board meeting. So any of those will be certainly easy for us to post them here. So it's easy reference for for the general public and the Peralta community to kind of see the progression of the project and the selection of the teams that are designing and constructing these projects.
So since we're commenting now, and this is Andrea Dawson, I'd actually like to make a comment also about how some of these all link together. And to my way of thinking, that under about the bonds, the voter approved bonds, that it should have a line that the capital GO bonds are under the state regulation that requires an oversight committee, that it should have a line in that summary. And then it should actually have a link to the oversight committee. And it could be a link to the overall, where it says oversight in the header there. But as long as that clearly links to our committee, because this is a requirement of law. So I really feel like there should be some more presence that gets you there starting with under the about the first presentation.
Sure. So perhaps on this page, right on the top here, I have a link to the CBOC's
Well,
subpage or
no,
you-
actually, if you look at measure A and then measure G, or if you look at the write-up, I pulled it up on my phone while you were going through this.
Mhm.
So if you
Oh, you mean this
click-
right up
you
here?
click on, it could be there. That's actually the best place, right there. Okay, but it could also be under the measures, because if you have measures that are city oversight, it's a little different. But the important part, I think, is to have a link after the description of the measures that are actually under our purview for oversight. Because if you click on measure A right now, if you click there, and then you scroll down in the write-up, you see you have quick links, okay?
Mhm.
That's where I'm talking about, and right here, measure A resolution. So that's committee bylaws. So then if you had under the commit another link that actually went to the oversight. Does that make sense?
Sure. I think we could put one here. We could also, to your other point, put one, oops, even on the,
Maybe here, yeah.
it could be a hyperlink within this language here
Yeah.
that says that it's under the oversight of a bond
Yeah,
oversight
I think
committee.
that
Here's
is-
a link.
That's an even better place.
Okay. Which would take you basically to, let me see. I guess it would be,
See, that's where it gets a little, that's why we haven't gotten to ours yet, but it's actually, the descriptions under there don't automatically take you to our committee. So I feel like there's different kinds of oversight, obviously, and but I feel like it should link right to our committee, and then you can go back and read the audit report. And under our committee, the audit, it should actually link to the audits under our committee.
okay.
So somewhere in our committee, it should link to the audits.
Yeah, I think we have more direct paths to the, it's almost like this whole oversight is the Citizens Oversight Committee, right?
Right,
And maybe we should just name it as such, because that's really what this whole subpage is dedicated to. That your annual reports are here,
right, right,
your agendas and minutes are here.
right. Yeah, that would make sense. So I think if but you have internal oversight, because it seems you have subcommittees internally too. So, but they're not underneath this header here.
We do, right? And so this really was intended for the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. So maybe even this should be renamed or somehow,
Yes, I think so.
because that's really what this whole section is.
Yes.
Keith, can you go back to the home page for a second, please? So what I'm understanding also, Andrea, is, okay, in the dashboard on top, rename that to Citizens Oversight so that it's a little bit more of a presence on top. And then also put a front page article
Well, under,
posting.
yeah, under the Build Peralta.
Yeah, so it would be a
But
front
also
page.
have a link in,
Yeah,
the write-up about the bonds.
right. So then there'll be two ads. So if one would be the in the dashboard, and then if you scroll down a little bit, Keith, that's the front page. If you have, you have voter approved bonds, measure A, measure G, there's also, a headline for citizen bond oversight that you can tap on.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think so.
yeah, that's easy to do. We could even make instead of this showing up as like another, just a text link, we could make this probably look like a button. So it just stands out. Actually, this is the same thing, but it happens to be just graphically looks like a button. Contracts and bidders. We could do the same thing with the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. And so it actually appears a little bit differently than the rest of the menu items here.
Okay. I mean, you've developed a very nice website overall, I will say.
Yeah,
Quite nice.
as long as it doesn't look cramped or, squeezed in and it looks aesthetically pleasing. That's my only concern. If you're looking at putting another button, either up next to the one that's already there, or I don't know where else you would put it.
Right. Well, we could run a little beta test, right, with our webmaster, web designer, and run it by folks to see, what we think is the best layout.
Okay.
But there's the member page. So I don't know if you want me to scroll through all of these, because you're all welcome to
Yeah.
kind of go through each one. But
No,
kind of-
no, I don't think so. So,
but
On the members, I think we need to do some updates because Kevin Jenkins is still listed. We need to change
right.
that.
We have some updates to do here, and I think in the past I've asked Mark if the members wanted to actually have a photo or a little bio. This is a place we could actually put those things. It's totally up to you, but it's your section of this website, basically.
yeah, I personally don't care if we have a photo or not, but, I'm open to whatever other committee members would like, of course.
So Keith, does the committee webpage, if you click on a name, take you to an email address, or how sometimes they have the mail to, if somebody wanted to get in touch with the committee member directly?
Right. No, I don't think it has that built in. We can certainly put that functionality in here if the committee members want to have that. It's easy for us to do.
It's totally up to the committee. There was in my previous position, some of the committee members actually wanted their email there, and others, rather than putting their personal email there, we had it go to executive assistant, or we set up a email box so that the staff could access it in case, because individuals said they didn't want their personal emails out there. So it's an option. I just thought I'd bring it up as we were walking through this for the committee members to think about.
What are the other committee members' thoughts?
Yeah, I've got a few comments. First off, I think that the website for Bill Peralta is really beautiful. It's been improved dramatically since we looked at it last time. I think that the word "about" is a vague topic, and it should not, that should be replaced with "bonds," because that is what it's about, bonds. It's not about the topic about. It should just say bonds. Also, the measure G is not well spelled out. It doesn't show, I don't recollect that it shows that it was passed by the voters in 2018 anywhere in it. Also, but my biggest concern is that the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is being lost in the shuffle. And that is, this website is presenting to the public the glorious construction project, and if a person is really, let's say, a ordinary citizen is interested in the Citizens Bond Oversight, they go to the Peralta website, the homepage, and they're going to look to click on something for one of those drop-down menus. And I think that all of the information about oversight should be on a drop-down menu on Peralta edu. And the information about the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is very outdated, incomplete, and it is mixed in with the previous Peralta parcel tax information. Like, for example, so can we click on the Peralta edu website, and I can show you what I'm talking about.
Oh, the main website.
Yeah, the homepage. Uh-huh.
Yeah, our current website on that is absolutely not ideal, and it's a work in progress. And we are working to update the regular Peralta website.
Yes, I can see that you have already updated it. Let's go up to the top there and click on governance, because that is, and then we go down, scroll down to Citizens Oversight Committee. So this shows that it's supposed to be the bond report home, it's supposed to be the website for Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, but it's not. It says bond report, and most of the stuff has to do with parcel tax. And if a person overlooks the link at the bottom to the Bill Peralta, they're not getting any information at all about Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. So I think that we need to copy and paste all of that information that is on the Bill Peralta right to this website so that the public can easily find it. And we should not, we should not make it obscure that, okay, you scroll down and then you click on a link to some other website, and that's where you find the information that you're looking for. That's not a good solution to keeping the public informed. By the time the public reads all this obsolete stuff, they're already disgusted and don't want to be a member of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. So that's one thing. What's the possibility of upgrading this and actually having the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee all the information that we think is important right here on the home page, or closely connected to the home page?
Yeah. So I see the Chancellor has her hand up. Dave Olson has his hand up. And I have some comments on this.
Okay, so you decide amongst yourselves who wants to go first. So, but I will say I will defer to the Chancellor to speak first, please.
All right, thank you, Andrea. I agree with the comments that you made, Mr. Crawley. We are, as Mark indicated, in the process of updating our webpage. It is using a software package that does not provide the flexibility that we need. So rather than having to go back and redesign everything, we're trying to figure out a way of how we can migrate the content into a new system. And that may be what Mark was going to tell you. One of the things that we might be able to do is, rather than one of the, with the internet and with web pages, you don't have to cut and paste and post it. You can just provide a link, and instead of it coming up under the district's website, when you click on bond, it will actually take you over to a e-coms site, which has all of the information I believe that you were saying that we should have, because they have put it under a much more usable platform. And rather than waiting until we make the migration over to a new software package for our webpage, that would address your concern. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing, I know maybe not all of you use the web a lot, but the About tab is kind of a common tagline or button when you want to find out more about something, rather than changing it to bond. If you go through and look at some of the other web pages, you'll see about is the terminology that's kind of accepted for finding out more information about a particular web page. So I don't think we really need to change that, because that's kind of like that's the standard in the, in the ether world, so to speak. But I do agree that maybe on our home web page, instead of having the old bond information that you just showed us, that we actually have a link that will take you to the AECOM's webpage about the bond program, since they have done a absolutely, I think, fantastic job, and they are maintaining it. And we have a limited staff. I think Mark has one person that's doing the whole district, and it's not really feasible to keep up to date on that, especially when you're using an old, outdated software package to manage a 21st century product.
Well, I've got a comment on that, and it's okay with me if the Bill Peralta has a tab called About. There's probably can be a lot of information that's about that's. However, the topic is bonds, and what I think that our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee must insist on is that we orient the public to the supreme importance of the exact terms of bonds and bond oversight committee. That it doesn't become a vague concept. It isn't just part of a wonderful expansion program. No, we are the central part. And I think that the members of our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee should be discussing this and letting you guys at the district know what we decide, so that you can do what we decide. And so right now, what you have is you have this obsolete website for the last 2.5 years that so we have an old website and a new website. The education code says that the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee shall have a website, singular, not dual, not more than one. It's a singular one. So if you guys make a priority of getting compliance with the education code, we would like to help you get that compliance, because that's what we're here to do, is insist upon compliance.
Okay, Marcus, so I appreciate what you're saying, and I think, to the chancellor's credit, I think they're headed in the right direction, and they have some ideas of how they could link these to improve this, what we're looking at right now, and also link it to Build Peralta, because the about is about projects. There is other funding that is used to build Peralta. So they get state match money. There's other funds that come from that we don't actually have oversight of. So I don't object to the way the Build Peralta website is set up, and it's very user friendly. What I think that needs to happen is, once again, that we need to work on linking the two and improving the old website, because for our oversight, and then it links to where the projects are, that some of this funding from the bonds, most of it, I agree, but not all, most of it is under our purview. So I wouldn't say they're not in compliance. It's just very tough to get to find us and what we're doing.
Yes.
At the committee.
Well, it's difficult. It's impossible to get it from the Peralta EDU website.
Well, I think
And
we're all
the main concern that I have with the Build Peralta is that the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is lost in the shuffle. It's not even, there's not even a tab there that says Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. So in other words, a person starts to look for the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee and then gets distracted with all of these beautiful pictures and all of the future plans. And the future plans is not our mandate. The accountability is our mandate.
I understand. And so I think that what I would propose is that you articulate some of this in an email and send it to staff. But I think we were headed in the right direction, and they were listening about how this could be improved and how it could directly link. Because to my way of thinking, you call out the measures that we have oversight, and then you link it to us on the homepage and on the Build Peralta. Anyone that is really interested in what our charge is and what the audits are, and if they're in compliance, is going to spend the time to go through our website. So it should be more prominent. I totally agree. But I think that rather than us go on and on about it tonight, I really appreciate that you brought this up, and I think that everyone understands there needs to be improvement. And so I would propose that some of that be articulated in an email, and then we'll get some feedback from staff on, would you like to see it like this or that, and go from there.
Right. So what you're saying is that I've talked too much about this, and that they're doing a reasonably good job, and I ought to shut up.
No,
and I'm saying that there is something where they need to make a important change, and that the members of our Citizens Bond Oversight Committee should be considering this and either disagreeing with me or agreeing with me. And if they agree with me, then the facilities people could be modifying what they're doing to meet our requirements. So so I'm not denouncing, I've praised the beautiful website, but I do say that the importance of the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is being lost with all the other projects that are going on.
And I agree with you, but I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I think people should quickly be able to find us if they're interested in what we do and what our charge is. So I'd like to hear from Patricia and Benjamin on this, your thoughts. And then we can have staff comment. Benjamin or Patricia, do you have thoughts on this?
I do agree, but I've heard from the comments that the reason why the site is outdated, there does seem to be some type of disconnect with the information and how it's shared with the public as far as the website goes. And it should be on the main website for the Peralta School District. And I agree with that part. And you're welcome to use my personal email.
Okay. So Benjamin?
I'll just agree with the comments that were just said.
Yeah, so I guess it is, from us, is it doable? That's what really our question is, so.
So what can the facility staff do to spruce up the peralta.edu website so that a person is not being misled that is looking for the CBOC? They're not being rooted to Measure E or or a defunct previous parcel tax group or whatever. So what can you guys do to speed that up, and make that streamlined? Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, I can't raise my hand because I'm the host, so I have to do it physically.
Okay. All right, Mark Johnson.
I just want to echo what the chancellor was saying. So we are in the transition. We've been working with a vendor that is giving us a code refresh for our current website that will make it mobile, responsive. Our current website is not particularly mobile friendly. The new website will be. And the second thing that it does is it will also make the website more accessible, so that people with different visual impairments can come to the website and understand and find use in it. So those are two really important updates that are in progress, as well as just the aesthetics of making it more beautiful. And the new website will be more beautiful. You caught us in mid-transition, Mr. Crawley. You're exactly right. When you click on the Citizens Oversight Committee link on the Peralta website, you're going to what is formerly the bond report page, but we've moved all of the bond information to Build Peralta, which is why you see the misleading information. And I agree with you. I think we can spend some time in updating the content on the existing site. We were delaying changing the URL itself as part of our migration to our new platform, but we can expedite that just to eliminate the confusion about seeing parcel tax information on a URL that says bond. I agree with you that that's very confusing. So we can make those short-term changes and not wait for another 3 or 4 months for our new website design to be finalized. So we can absolutely make some short-term changes that make it less confusing for a reader.
Okay. So thank you. So, and if you have other suggestions, I think that it would just be best to articulate them in an email, okay? Because it sounds like we're headed in the right direction.
I do have one additional comment. This is Patricia. If the Peralta is not able to find a website person, they have, WordPress has templates that you can use for a couple of $100, and you can have one of the students to do it. It'll take maybe a couple of hours. I can help if you guys need help with a website.
Oh, wow, that's great. Thank you.
Thanks for the volunteering, Patricia. You may be sorry when we call on you.
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm available.
Okay, thank you. Well, are there other comments or thoughts on this item?
Andrea, I think Dave has his hand up and I also had my hand up.
Dave and then Etheria. I can't see your hands. I don't know why, but anyway.
Okay, mine's just a quick one for Keith. How comprehensive are the projects that are defined on each page? Do you have every single major project, or how do you define a major project, or how does something qualify to get on there? How long does it stay maybe?
They're the active projects right now. So the bond spending plan is a 7-year plan, right? So it's all the ones that are actually active with some sort of procurement that's occurred, whether on the front end planning or otherwise. There are a number of projects that are 3 years out in the bond spending plan that aren't necessarily profiled in detail on the bond spending plan. That's part of an ongoing discussion with the college to find the priorities for each campus.
Okay, so you're not just picking the biggest few, you're trying to make it pretty comprehensive.
Right, and there is an infrastructure link on there as well, that as we start to get traction on our infrastructure projects, these are some of the smaller projects at each campus, to build a portfolio of those, just so that the community can see that there's not only the big glamorous projects that are being done, but there are real baseline infrastructure needs for the campus that are being met as well with the bond funds.
Okay, great. And I like the comment on, these bond programs go on for such a long time. I like the comment with Measure G you don't see like when it was approved or anything like that. Just I like a label of like 2018 Measure G or something like that. But that's just me. I think that's becoming pretty common.
Yeah, no, I think these are good comments for us to incorporate. And I think initially we can just hyperlink from the district's other Peralta EDU links to the bond webpage. I mean, the reason we built our webpage, our bond webpage on the district's domain was because it's a district website, right? It's kind of called the program manager's website or the ACOM website. It's actually the district website, right? So, and the reason it's a separate pullout is because of just some of the things Mark was referencing, right? There were a number of challenges we had with standing up a bond website with the tools that they were using, frankly, on their site. So we chose to create a subdomain on peralta.edu and make it easy actually for the district to link back to it whenever they made their updates.
Okay. So in Etheria now, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I hear your comments about the Build Peralta website. In the next meeting, how about, I'll work with Keith and we'll come back with something for you guys to look at.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, I'd like to say
Thank
one
you.
more thing, that I do think that for the next few meetings, it would be good for us to touch on the website and revisit it, maybe not in as much depth as today, but so that we are giving our opinions on what we think the better direction and the slight improvements should be.
Okay. Everybody in agreement on that? All right, we'll move on unless we have any public speakers on this item. Mark, Johnson, do we have public speakers?
I do not see anybody raising their hand here.
Okay, all right. So the next item is review of the annual bond audit report. And this is from, I don't want to mispronounce your name, so I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself.
Yep. So thank you, everybody. My name is Said Farhan. I'm a manager with CLA, and I'll just proceed with sharing my screen. And I do have a deck ready for today's presentation. So just give me 1 second, please. I'll just get that rolling here.
All right.
Okay. So yeah. So just give me. So yeah. So we are the external auditors for the district, and part of our engagement, what we did was to audit the financial and performance requirements of the general bond obligation measure A and measure G. We issued the audit report earlier this year, so and today I'm looking forward to the opportunity to go over some of the key sections of the audit report, the results of our audit, and the procedures that we performed. Specifically as it relates to the testing of the expenditures of the bond funds. So I'll start off with the audited financial statements, and you'll find our opinion on pages 1 and 2. We are issuing an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which means that the fund financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. The balance sheet and the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance in accordance with governmental accounting principles generally accepted in the US. And this is the highest level of assurance that we can provide. Following the audit reports, we do have the balance sheet on page 3, the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance on page 4, and the notes to the financial statements on pages 5 through 10.
May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
On the previous page, you said that the financial statement that you are providing is the highest level that you can provide, or is it the highest that you were authorized to provide? Or
basically, the auditing standards gives us certain level of assurances that we can provide, right? With the unmodified opinion, basically means that what we've audited the financial statements, and we did not necessarily find any discrepancies that we consider to be material. We are not providing, typically we do not provide absolute assurance, and these are all dictated by generally accepted auditing standards.
So this is a compliance report, not an effectiveness report. Is that correct?
This is the one that I'm going over. So essentially, we issued, and I apologize for not clarifying, 2 separate audit reports. So one was on the financial statements, and one was on compliance with the expenditure, the compliance of the expenditures that were charged. So I'm going over the financial statements first.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So yeah, so we have the notes to the financial statements here as well from pages 5 through 10. And the financial statements are presented on a modified accrual basis. So you will not necessarily see any of the long-term assets or the obligations related to these measures on these financials. These obligations and assets long-term would be included in the district-wide financial statements. And moving along, after the footnotes, there is an additional report on internal controls and compliance over financial reporting. We did not identify any instances of material weaknesses or non-compliance as it pertains to financial reporting. So the schedule of findings and responses, which is a required disclosure really on page 13, is not really applicable in this case, but since it's a required disclosure, we have included it in our audit report. And there were no findings for fiscal year 2019 as well, as it pertains to the financial statements. So this is, and now I'm going to move over to the performance audit, basically the compliance audit of the bond expenditures. So this, so our audit report is on page 1, and we are issuing a clean opinion in the sense that based on the procedures that we perform, the general obligation bond fund proceeds have been expended in all significant respects on the specific projects developed by the Board of Trustees and approved by the voters. And some of the components I would just kind of go over of the performance audit report. So we have included our objectives on page 3, and which was really to first identify the expenditures that were charged to these funds, Measure A and Measure G, and then determine on a sample basis whether the expenditures charged were made in accordance with the bond project list approved by the voters. And some of the selected highlights of our procedures that we performed, and I'll start off with the non-payroll related transactions. So for Measure A, we selected 67 samples or transactions totaling about $24.9 million. And we essentially covered 76% of the total expenditures of about $33.9 million. And for Measure G, we tested 13 non-salary related transactions totaling about $3.9 million, which represented 82% of the total expenditures of $4.8 million. And for the samples that we tested, we looked at the actual invoices, receiving reports, and other supporting documents to determine if the expenditures charged to the projects were properly expended. We also tested the bidding requirements as well, if applicable, for some of these transactions. And for the salaries and benefits or the payroll related items that were charged, so for Measure E, there were no payroll related expenditures that were charged to the program, to the fund. However, for Measure A, we did look at salary and benefit of about of 7 employees, which totaled $868,000. And this is both salaries and benefits. And we verified that the salaries and benefits were charged only to the extent these employees performed work associated with Measure A. Also, outside of the steps that I just went over for the compliance, we did verify that the district is maintaining a separate fund for these measures. And we also verified the proceeds received for Measure A and Measure G.
What is Measure E?
That might be a typo. I apologize for that. It should be Measure G.
Okay, and can you tell me, for example, one example of how a salary benefit would be part of this $800,000 expenditure?
So we basically, what we did was we obtained the detail of the charges. And from there, we did notice there were employees who were charged. I'll have to refer back to our actual testing to see exactly who we looked at. But I can definitely have that info for you if you can give me a couple minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
Saeed, while you're
Yep.
looking at that, this is Dr. Jackson. Marcus, I will try to give you an example. In our bond projects, there are always technology and infrastructure components of that. We have individuals on staff who have that expertise. And so if part of their everyday duties are involved in the bond, in working on the bond, in approving infrastructure, identifying technology, looking at FF&E, making recommendations on that, procuring that through our system, then that person or part of that person's time is then charged to the bond, since that is what they are specifically working on.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. I don't need any more information on that. So
Thank you.
let's continue.
Okay.
Thank
Yep. You're welcome. Yeah, and that basically was my brief presentation here. And at this point in time, if you have any questions, I can address that, or I can get back to you. Really.
Do we have a copy of your slide deck,
Yes.
Saeed?
Yep, and what I can do is, I did share it with Mark, but what I can do is make that change to, to that
Oh,
deck.
fuck. Did I not
That would,
mute myself when I walked away?
all right, thank you.
Um,
That's very good news to hear that we had an unqualified audit and a performance audit. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you. And it was nice meeting you all, and I will drop off, but I will share the updated slide here shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Farhan. Appreciate it.
Yep, thanks.
Are you there, Mark, or?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, I was just wondering about our agenda, that's all.
Oh. So next on the agenda is the bond program spending update from Mr. Kachia.
You guys, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I put myself on mute when I was getting a drink of water. So I'm talking and I'm saying, were there any speakers? And you, thank you, introduce the next item. I appreciate it. So yeah, take it away, Keith. And I think that we had a very nice presentation last month. So we don't, from my way of thinking, since we do have a good presentation, don't need to go into great detail on each item. So thank you. Because we're supposed to convene at 7 and I don't see that happening. So thanks.
I muted myself as well. I guess the gist of that was make it quick. Which is a challenge for me, as you know.
Well, we appreciate that you're thorough too.
Well, I'll quickly skim through my, am I sharing the right screen? Am I sharing my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is a bond update. I think one of the things that you had asked last meeting was a more comprehensive overview of the bond spending plan, right? And kind of where we are in that regard. It's good timing in the sense of it's been about a year since the bond spending plan was established. Last June, it was presented to the Board of Trustees at the July 14th meeting in 2020. And so what I've done is I kind of created a quick snapshot deck of kind of where we stand with the projects. But more importantly, we're also in the middle of our capital construction outlay, our 5-year capital outlay for this year's submittal to the State Chancellor's Office, which represents the initial and final project proposals that we'll be submitting. So we're engaging all the college presidents and the Peralta community in looking at the bond spending plan and their future projects as well. Just a quick snapshot of where we are. I think the main change here is that we're now at another $10 million has been committed since I last presented to you. That's what the Board of Trustees has approved in contracts that are going out to contractors and consultants for the capital projects. Oops. Oh, there. Oh, my goodness. Here's a snapshot again, and these are repetitive in the sense that I like to just show you progress from period to period. So if you look at my deck from last month, you'll see similar slides. We've just updated the information, but this now has been updated to represent expenditures through May. I think our last meeting, I had expenditures through, I believe it was March when we last met. So there's been about $5.5 million of additional funds spent from Measure A and G in the last couple months. This is the overall bond spending plan summary. So this is the total bond spending plan. So related to Measure G, it captures the 800 million here. Oops, I'm actually $70 over. I'm gonna have to reconcile that. My apologies. I wonder why that happened. And then this, for Measure A, this represents the last tranche, the $65 million. This is what we anticipate currently in state matching funds for the FPPs and IPPs we have in process. And this amount here, $3 million, represents an EDA grant that we have for the aviation school at College of Alameda. So overall, the capital program is over $1 billion capital program. This indicates the allocation to each college campus, as well as the split across all our funding sources. That's my thing a little slow here. So I'm just briefly step through each campus. Of course, I'll send this deck to Mark so he can distribute it as part of the meeting minutes. Why is my screen not moving? So basically, these slides are the same for each college campus. What I'm doing here is I'm exploding the next level of detail for the bond spending plan. So when you look at the College of Alameda on the previous slide, there was $211.7 million allocated in total project cost. Again, that's really the total project cost for each capital project in the capital spend. So it includes hard and soft costs. The soft costs are those for the consultants and DSA fees, permits, and whatnot. Construction is the hard cost, the hard construction, bricks and mortar, if you will, for the projects. This is a breakout for each college campus. A couple things to note here. It indicates project number. This is used in the district's accounting system to track that project uniquely and all the expenses tied to it, regardless of funding source. We indicate the type of project, whether it's new, a modernization, or if it's, in this case, there's an IT spend as well. In the case of the names here for each project, I've indicated these acronyms. DB indicates design build versus DBB, which is traditional delivery design bid build. So that's pretty much a common theme throughout all of this information. The other thing of note here for the state matching funds, an FPP is a final project proposal. If an A is indicated here, that means it's been approved by the state. So it's basically a contract with the state to deliver that project, and that's what they're committing to provide to the district if we execute that project. An IPP is an initial project proposal, which is initial first phase submittal. S means actually submittal. And that's basically an initial plan of what we potentially are targeting for a future project. Same theme for each college as well. I'm indicating a schedule timeline for the major capital projects. And what we're doing here, you'll see for each project, there's kind of a smaller hatch section and a larger bar for each project. The hatch section represents the June 2020 bond spending plan. That was the initial bond spending plan that was presented about this time last year. And what I'm doing here is I'm starting to track how we're doing against that original plan, right? So current schedules are the bigger colors here. So in the case of this project here, New Center for Liberal Arts, we expected to be done in the third quarter of 2020. We were done in the third quarter of 2020. You can see here for the auto diesel technology project, these are all the phases here. You can see that we were expecting to be done in the second quarter of 2023, but we've slipped out 2 quarters on that project. I'm happy to dive into the reasons for any of these slippages, but the gist of it is that this is a dynamic schedule. It's updated every month as things occur. We're constantly looking at mitigation measures for the schedule, but also this was our initial target of what we had established when we first established the bond spending plan. And as we all know, through the design process, through the planning, design, and construction process, and certainly through the DSA process, things change over time. So the intent here is to really show kind of how we report from period to period, frankly, how we're doing, right, against the bond spending plan. You can see here, most notably, the new science and admin building, which we thought we were going to start last year in the third quarter. We're not starting at this point until the fourth quarter of this year. So it's a significant shift in the schedule that's largely due to some of the ongoing discussions related to the scope of that project with the college, the new college president that's there, Dr. Jones, as well as defining what spaces will ultimately be in that building. So it was selected to defer that project until we have firm confirmation on the scope of work and the actual spaces that support the academics of the college campus there. A couple other things here, notably, you can see that there's a couple blanks for some of these projects. These are projects that have kind of evolved or either moved or been canceled or changed. So in the case of this project, It was previously an allocation of funding for what we were calling a swing space that was to relocate the students from the science annex to the college. It was decided to not move forward with that project. Instead, they're going to use that money to fix the science annex, the 860 Atlantic building. And so it's evolved a bit. We're in a planning stage now to define what the schedule looks like for that project. So that's still under review for rescheduling. In this case, for this last project here, the demolition of the diesel building, that's tied to this auto diesel technologies project. Instead of carrying that as a separate project, we decided it's probably best to package it with this other project, this new building, and this contract will actually include the demo of both the old and new, or of the old auto and diesel buildings, instead of pulling up the diesel building separately. Here's a demo package. So constant evolution of the schedule and the projects, but it's something that we meet with the colleges on a monthly basis at their facilities, college committees. So that's kind of a theme throughout these, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time diving into each one. This is a rendering of the new Berkeley City College West Campus. It's the project that we're just starting with a new design build contract. It was taken to the board, I think that was last month, I believe. It's a not to exceed progressive design build for $65 million to this Excel Radcliffe design build team. We just actually had a building user group meeting today with the college campus, the end users of the facility, to start defining all the spaces in this building. I won't spend a lot of time going through these. You're free to review these, and if you have questions, maybe at our next meeting, or certainly get back to Mark with any questions. But it's the same kind of format. You can see here in this case, there's been some shifts in some of the phasing on how we originally phased the project and how we're now currently anticipating it's going to happen. But at the end result in both of these cases, in this case here, you can see there's a bit of change from the original hatch to the new bars here, but we're still holding the timeline for finish. So that's kind of a constant throughout the entire capital program. There's an ebb and flow of the schedule information as we progress through design and construction. This is the Laney College, of course, the new Learning Resource Center. I'm sure you've seen this rendering before. It looks like it's actually there. We wish it were there already. And same format, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through all these, but it's the same exact format, the delineation of the capital spend, how we've allocated Measure A and G monies, and the total project cost estimate for each college campus, as well as an associated schedule and timeline of how we're doing from the last presentation in June of last year. That's Laney College. This is the new Merritt Child Development Center. This is one of the projects that's probably going to be the first one that moves into construction. It's in its back check process right now in DSA. And the same financial information and schedule information. You can see here from the schedule, we're holding pretty close to the original schedule for the Child Development Center, that rendering that we just looked at. The exciting news is that, as you can see here, it's scheduled to start bidding in the third quarter, trying to get that under construction in the fourth quarter of this year. So it's likely one of the first major capital projects that will be moving into construction. And it's state funded.
There you go.
This table represents the district-wide spend. So this is the category of all the things that we carry district-wide projects and support services for management teams, for legal services, auditing, all of that sort of thing. And that's it. I'll send this presentation deck to you, Mark, so you can distribute it to the committee members.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments on this item? Well, very nice presentation, and I really appreciate the responsiveness of the staff and enlightening us into what is actually going on. And I would like to say at some point, maybe after June 15th, we're getting to a point that we might consider it having a way to tour some of the campuses in the fall. I mean, it seems like we will be out of COVID, all fingers crossed, right? So I'd like to think about that for the fall.
Okay.
All right. So, any public comment on this? Do we have public?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So I think we have to extend the meeting to 7:15, please, and technically we have to have a roll call on that to agree.
Okay. Is there a second?
Do I have a second from someone that we extend the meeting to 7:15?
This is Patricia Ellis. I second.
Thank you very much, Patricia. So, roll call.
Thank you. Patricia Ellis,
Yay.
Marcus Crawley,
Okay.
Benjamin Scott,
Yes.
Andrea Dawson,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, so the next item is preparing our annual report. And I believe that I remember that Benjamin Scott and Patricia Ellis offered to work on this and take the lead. And I think I sent you the Word document, and if I didn't, of last year's report. I will do that. Unless you want, and you're welcome to change it and propose a new draft. But it's rather lengthy, and so you can choose to how you want to approach it, and as a subcommittee. So is there one of you in particular that wants to take the lead on this? Patricia or Benjamin, or you want to work together?
Are we allowed to get each other's information so that we can communicate?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, I don't have any of that.
Okay, so I will send it to you in an open document, and then you are welcome to communicate with each other as a subcommittee of our committee, because you're not a quorum of the committee, so you're welcome to do that.
Okay.
And then you can share update with myself, and I actually can share those updates, but there's not any allowed comment back. So it's really better that you question. You have to send, I forget how it is. We want to be careful about the rules of communicating as a quorum. We don't want to do that. So I will get back to you in an email how this all has to happen so that we don't violate any regulation.
When is this due?
It is due sometime after we hear from the auditor. So, and then ideally you would present in August or September to the full board of trustees, because I don't know about Peralta, but do they normally take off board meetings in July?
They're off in August.
They're off in August. Okay, so then it would be, we would target for the first board meeting in September.
I'd like to make a correction there.
Okay.
Citizens Bond Oversight Committee does not report to the board. It reports to the public.
But the way that we give that report is we present it as a public item, public information item to the board.
We might as well get the terminology correct in line with the statute. And the statute says we report to the public.
Right.
Now, the board certainly is part of the public and can read it, but let's just use the terminology correctly.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Marcus. You're correct in the terminology for sure. So, but the way that it has the greatest visibility is that it's presented to the board in a public forum, that the public is much more apt to listen, and the board actually is responsible to the taxpayers if there's any violation of the regulation. So they are ultimately responsible to cure that if there's a violation. So I believe that's why the report is done annually and it is presented to a board. But we are the watchdog for the public. I agree with you. So I will get with the two committee members via email and send you an open document, and you can go from there. Okay?
So, but you said we're still waiting for another audit report?
No, we heard it this evening. We heard from
Okay.
the auditors this evening. So that,
Okay, I misunderstood.
I'm sorry, I probably didn't make myself clear, but at our last meeting, we did not hear from the auditor. So we have the audits and we've heard from the auditor.
Chancellor Jackson has her hand up.
Yes.
Hello, Andrea. I just wanted to provide some clarification. The Citizens Oversight Committee makes a public presentation. The board is the forum for that public presentation. The board presentation is put in social media. It is recorded so that it can be viewed by the public at a later date if they're not able to make it during the live presentation. And then we also, at least in my old district, and that's my question, is we also publish the board's oversight committee report in the local papers. Is that also something that is done here, or is it just the presentation that is made to the public during the open session of the Board of Trustees?
It has not been published in a local paper, or neither has any other neighboring district that I'm aware of, but I actually think that's a very good idea. So I appreciate that. If I'm not sure of how it would go through the district, I guess, because there is some fee with that, but it certainly would be something that I think we would be interested in.
Yes, we did that at Chabot Las Positas Community College District when we passed our Measure E, or maybe it was Measure A, I'm not sure, the number that we used. We went back and forth, but not only did we make the public presentation at a board meeting and invite the public to make comments, because it's a published agenda that goes out, so individuals could come in and make a response, but we also put it in our local paper with the surrounding areas. So it was a nominal fee, but it was something that we did, and that might be something that we might want to consider if the Oversight Committee thinks that it would be a good idea. I'd just like to hear some feedback.
If I may, this is Etheria.
Yes, Etheria. Yes, go ahead, Etheria.
Chancellor and Andrea, in the Patent Bond Oversight Committee newsletter, individuals, tax-paying groups, everyone who was on our mailing address, and we, pretty much, like I said, we had a newsletter that used to go out on a regular basis. In addition to the reporting to the board.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that, the newsletter. Other thoughts or comments on this? So, well, let's look into that and see what that would mean for this district, and have it reported back to us at the next meeting.
All right, we'll look into that, get some costs with electronic media. You know, it may we may not want to do it if it's cost prohibitive, but we can at least maybe looking at, you know, I don't know. I think Berkeley has a paper. I know Alameda has a small paper, and I know the Tribune. But again, it's something that we can look into and get back to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So, do we have public to comment on this item, Mark Johnson?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay. So with that, we will move on to the next item, which is 9, committee membership update.
Yes, so on this agenda item, I wanted to report out that I am putting, I wanted to first thank the members for their feedback on wishing to move forward to continue on the committee. So I am entering in Mr. Crawley and Ms. Ellis to be considered by the board for another 2-year term extension. Hopefully that'll be in the May 22nd meeting. I'm working with our board clerk, Sasha Amiri, to get that through.
Thank you. Okay. Appreciate that. All right. So next item is new business items. Does anyone, committee members, have any suggestions for items that they'd like to see on our next agenda besides our annual report, which I think we will review our annual report. And my hope is that we could do that. If you don't take off July, I don't know, Benjamin and Patricia, if you feel like you could have the report completed in a month, we could do a July meeting and then take off August and plan to have it presented to the board of trustees in September.
Is this the new business agenda item that we're talking about right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so one new business agenda item is when is our next meeting going to be? And the other new business item that I propose is that the chairperson send out a proposed agenda 2 weeks before the next meeting, just to stimulate our gray cells. Let us start thinking seriously about our next meeting. Because what typically happens is here at this meeting, we're already practically 2 hours into the meeting. We're all ready to go home and go to bed or read a book or whatever. And so we're just not thinking about what's the next item that we want to talk about. So if we just send out a memo to a proposed agenda so that to stimulate each of us members, I think we'll have a better participation by the members because they will be contributing to their own interest.
Okay, so we can do that, but I also want to keep this as an item on every one of our agendas, because if there's something in particular that folks already know that they want to agendize, it gives staff time to prepare for it. So 2 weeks, and then if we don't get feedback for a couple days, it may not be enough time for staff to prepare. So I'd like it to be 2 ways. So if you have thoughts on the agenda tomorrow or the next day or next week, you can do it that way too. Okay. So.
Andrea, just to recap from our discussion today, I think we are going to revisit the webpage for sure. I think that was a recommendation, and I think we said at the next meeting we would go back to just give an update. I know that was one thing that I remember hearing, and then I think the other and we'll talk about it. I know there was some interest. I think there's still a seat that is available, an at-large seat. Am I not correct, Mark?
That's correct.
Right.
And so we may have a update on the membership also. So I think that also should be on the agenda for future agenda items. It's not new business, but it is something that I think you had indicated, the members had indicated that they wanted us to discuss.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you. So, so going back to having a meeting next month, do we want to tentatively plan on a July meeting? In particular with the intention of having the report ready to present to the committee and hopefully adopt it so it can be presented to the public and the board in September. Is that something that Patricia and Benjamin, you think you are prepared to do?
This is going to be my first time doing it, so I'm not even sure what to expect.
Okay, so I'll give you an idea. I think it might take you, between the two of you, 6 hours, okay, time. If you go with last year's format, which Marcus and I and Kevin Jenkins spent a lot of time on. And so if you update that report with the current information, I think that it would not take you too much time. Or if 6 hours you think is a lot of time, that's, but I'm just, you know, by the time you go back and forth and look at what you want to update, and I'm glad to help you, and I'm glad to actually share Oakland Unified, which I did for many years, and someone else.
Okay, as long as we have the contact information for each other, and yeah, I mean, I'm just going to speak for myself. I think it's possible, but
Okay, well, let's just see how we do. If not, we'll have to do it. Come back with it in September, and then shoot for the plan for maybe the second board meeting of the month in September, or it may not be until October that it gets presented. Okay. So can we move in that direction? Everyone in agreement? Okay. Because we have, I think, 3.5 minutes before technically we're supposed to sign off. If no one has any other comments or thoughts.
Well, since Patricia and Benjamin are not speaking up, I agree with you that they can probably whip this out in a few hours if they're using the previous annual report as their guide. So all they have to probably do is a little bit of wordsmithing, and the audits are already clean bill of health. So there's really not much to say unless they have some recommendations. And that would be interesting if they have some recommendations for the district.
Well, I think, yes. And Benjamin and Patricia, when you look at it, the report, you will see that there were recommendations from last year, and you may give an update on those recommendations. So I think look at the report, and then we can give you some feedback on it. Okay.
Okay, so are we agreed upon when our next meeting is going to be?
Can we tentatively make it for July and then take August off?
Well, about this same time in July would work fine.
So that would be July 7th.
Well, let's make it more to the middle of July. That would give us all a little bit of time to prepare and think about other things. Is
Does July 14th work for Or do you folks need to look at their calendars and we need to have some options?
July 14th works just fine for me.
Benjamin and Patricia, do you want to look at calendars or do you want to decide this evening?
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Sounds good to me. This is Patricia.
okay, 14th then of July.
Okay.
All right. So thank you all. We have 1 minute before we sign off, and I thank you for a good meeting, and I really appreciate staff participation, and I think the district is moving in a good direction. So, and you have a very cohesive bond program management team, and good things are happening. And I'm happy to see that Chancellor Jackson, that you're still here. So I'll say, I hope you stay a long time, and you're sending I can see there's good things happening under your leadership. Well,
Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate it. We're trying to do our best. Thank all of you for volunteering, because it's the citizens, as you know, you've indicated that we do this work for. We do it for our community. So thank all of you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all. Take care and have a good June.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.
Bye.